All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. Today we're talking with Keith Perhac, and we are going to explore the depths of what it means to teach other people what we know, how that can be used as marketing, and maybe even how that can be used as an income stream. Keith, welcome.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that scares me. That scares me.
Oh, doesn't it? Keith, what part of the world are you in? Why don't you start there?
I am currently in Japan, which you can see by my Japanese-style door/window in the back there. I've been living here about 12 years. No, I'm not in Tokyo. I'm in the middle of nowhere, which makes it difficult to do the kind of work that I do, which is kind of working with startups, working with internet product people in order to improve conversion funnels and improve their marketing.
Now, I always think about Japan. I'm just going to ask you this. Japan, I always think about it as like a super high-tech place, right? Like everybody's got the best cell phones, the computers are probably way advanced. I don't know. But how's their marketing?
Well, first of all, I'll say that like Japan is very high-tech from a electronic standpoint. We suck at software. Absolutely. We have some of the worst software ever. And you think about what you know as great Japanese high tech, and it's like Sony's PlayStation or the cars,
right,
or like the toilets that sing to you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is all hardware. This isn't software, right? And we're amazing at building really good, innovative hardware. We're horrible at building software. Which kind of sucks for me as I'm a software person, not a hardware person.
Now, does that mean that you're just constantly in demand to build amazing software solutions?
No, it's because they don't understand it that it's so bad, right? And you can't sell something to someone who doesn't understand it, which interestingly enough ties in very well to the theme of what we're going to be talking about, which is, okay, how do you educate people on what you're doing and how do you convince them to buy it? Same with the Japanese marketing, though. So the Japanese have, and this is very interesting, it's very physical based, right? It's hardware, it's manufacturing. Things that are seeable and touchable have a lot of value, especially where I am, which is kind of an automotive town. Things that you can't see, software, marketing, consulting, no value whatsoever.
Wow.
Like it's a very different mindset than what we have here. But it's interesting. I love working here. I love living here. But it's a very, very different mindset, very, very different business set than you'd have in the States, which honestly makes it all the more difficult that I'm out in really middle of nowhere Japan doing the kind of work that I do.
Yeah. I mean, let's dig into that. What kind of work do you do, and what's your day job, or how do you use your time most days?
So we're what we like to call a technical marketing agency. So the idea is that, the whole growth hacking thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like I hate that term, but it's what everyone seems to know. The idea that you can use technology, automation, and just being really freaking smart and understanding human psychology in order to improve products and in order to improve market share and in order to improve your business, right? To grow the whole business. And that's what we kind of focus on. And so we focus on marketing strategies, but we also build out the technology for that. So we work with companies startups who want to get more people in the front door, get them using the trial product, get them hooked on the trial product, and get them to start using the final product. We also work with a lot of internet marketers, for lack of a better term, product people who have a free educational email funnel or something that you opt in for, and then takes that and turns that into a sale and then to a customer and then builds that into a relationship with them, which is kind of what we're going to be talking about today. So
yeah, absolutely. So how did you get into this idea of educating people leads to money or jobs or a happier life, or like how did you come to that? Because it doesn't seem like most software engineers would. I mean, I assume you qualify. You think of yourself as a technology person.
Yeah, definitely. I was software developer only for 9 years, something like that, before I started this. And even now, I do a lot of coding. I do a lot of programming. I don't think that there was any one moment where I was like, "Oh yeah, education is the way to go." It's been a very solid trend over the last maybe decade of businesses and especially people working on educational style marketing. And the strategies have changed a lot, but I think that the idea has always been there. Like when you go on a sales call in the old like 1950s style sales call, you're going to educate, right? It's not, sure. I mean, you're going to sell, but you're also telling them about the product, why it's going to help them, etc. And educational style marketing is really just the ultimate, or kind of the penultimate evolution of that into teaching everything at scale. Right. So, go ahead.
Yeah. No. So let's go back to the 1950s. So if I have a briefcase in my hand and I'm lugging around this big box and I've got like, I'm trying to sell this thing into an organization, and maybe this organization doesn't even know they need it. Right. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to have like some charts and some graphs or some like, I'm going to be trying to educate them. I mean, am I thinking about it the right way? Like this old 1950s guy, right? He shows up with the first whatever it is, and first he's got to prove that there's a need. He's got to take this company that thinks they're doing fine, and he's got to convince them that they really could be doing better.
Right.
Is that the kind of
yeah? Exactly. You could even look at it like the door-to-door vacuum salesman, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, they come in, they have the product. It's like, give me 10 minutes of your time. They throw dirt on your floor and like they rub a cat on something.
Right, exactly.
It all up, right? So I think this was really, I don't know if this was the birth of educational marketing, but it's probably the least sophisticated educational marketing that I can think of right now. And it's grown much more sophisticated because of one simple reason, which is that if a guy comes to your office or a guy comes to your house and throws dirt all over your carpet and says, hey, look at this. It is educational, but you have your guard up, right?
Yeah, like, I'm calling the cops.
This guy, yeah, just rub like rotten eggs everywhere.
Exactly.
It's just my hobby. I don't even sell vacuum.
Right. You're just a nut. But as you were saying, you have your guard up. You're sort of predisposed to say no, right? Because you think, this is that guy.
You know, at the end, there's going to be a sales pitch. Right?
Okay, yeah.
And so the idea of educational marketing is twofold. One, it's just part of it's just being a nice guy, right? And the other part is building a low pressure situation where you have a long-term sales funnel that's not high pressure, that's low pressure, that has the same result. So let's go back to like the vacuum cleaner. So the vacuum cleaner salesman had a bad rap and it was difficult reputation, because they were ready for that sales, right? So do you remember Tupperware parties?
I do. I and like Amway parties. Not that
they're making
involved. Yeah.
They're making a comeback right now, actually. Not Tupperware itself, but other style parties.
My wife goes to candle parties.
Yep.
Which
candle
I don't
parties,
get.
Jewelry parties.
Purse parties. Shoe parties.
I don't get it either. But
I tell my wife, like, all they want is your money. And she says, no, it's a party. And it just doesn't sound like a party.
Brilliant? Isn't that brilliant? Like, they don't even know it. But what it is so this is also education, but it's also social proof. So we won't get too far into social proof this time, but think about the education there. If instead of a salesman coming to your door with a vacuum cleaner, one of your friends says, oh, you got to try the new Dyson, right? Like this new Dyson is freaking good. And it's good because A, B, C, and D, right? So you're getting education about the product. You're also getting some social proof, but you're getting education about the product, but it's not a high pressure sales situation. And you're getting that education from someone you trust, right? And you trust them because you're your friend. So you're much more inclined to believe that person because it's not, it's not a sale, right? You trust. First of all, you trust their opinion. It's really hard to measure where my finger is on the screen.
With these little things at the bottom.
The little things at the bottom,
yeah.
So you I lost my train of thought. So you trust the person.
You trust them. You don't think it's a sale.
It's not a sale because they don't get any money from it except for the Tupperware parties. And you're still getting that education. So that's what, as a business owner, we kind of want to reproduce in an automated or large scale fashion, right?
Okay, hold on. But if I go to a website and like I see the drip campaigns as being a
Yep.
way, well, first I'll ask, is that an educational mechanism? Because
That is the, oh, go ahead.
no, I use them and somebody told me it was. So
Yeah, that is the quintessential educational marketing tool, right? So
yeah, go ahead. Tell us how. Yeah, go ahead.
so the marketing, educational marketing, just to kind of take it back one more to get the full definition, is kind of, okay, here is everything I know about this subject. I am a master in this subject because I talk about it a lot, or I have these credentials, and I'm going to tell you everything I know. And that's the base of it.
Don't you hold? I mean, if you tell them everything for free, then why would they hire you?
That's the funny thing. It's really amusing that it works, and it does. It does. So I don't know if anyone here knows Patrick McKenzie, Patio 11 on the internet. So he is a very high level, high ranked consultant in the startup community, and he's had a blog for going on like 6-7 years now. And he started by doing conversion rate optimization for his tiny little software company. And he was doing it back when no one was doing it. So this is almost 9 years ago now. And as he was learning about it, because there was nothing on the internet, he just kept blogging about it, reporting about it, every single thing. He reports his revenue. He reports how well his companies do. He reports on every single test, every single idea, anything that he has, he puts up there. He also puts up strategies, lifecycle emails, how he does customer retention, everything. Everything's up there.
This is all free. You don't have to pay to get in.
It's all for free. And if you go to any startup and you say, hey, do you know who Patio 11 is? They're like, oh, yeah. Oh, hell yeah, I do. And so everyone knows him. Everyone respects him. And everyone understands the knowledge that he is providing. So he's providing all this knowledge. And he's getting results. People who use his strategies get results, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And you would think, okay, no one's ever going to hire this person.
Right.
But think about it this way. If famous person who has given all his strategies out for free said, hey, would you like to work together just 1 week, us together, like just coming up with special things for your company, would you probably take it?
I would probably take it. That's sort of like if Colonel Sanders said, hey, what if I came over and did your barbecue this week?
Yeah, would you pay me $500 or $1,000 or whatever to grill a chicken for you? Hell's yeah.
Hell's yeah.
Yeah, I would love it. Like,
exactly.
Besides the fact that it would be creepy for zombie Colonel Sanders to come to my barbecue, like I'd be very excited about that.
Well, so you're essentially what you're saying is when companies like KFC or Coca-Cola, and obviously those are very particular kind of companies, when they hold things back as the secret recipe, where in the old days it may have been thought of as the secret recipe is what we have, and if you want something like that, buy it from us. Mm-hmm. The new economy doesn't really support that. It doesn't need that level of secrecy. In fact, maybe it even is anti-secrecy in that way.
I think it's going towards anti-secrecy. I think that there are a lot of places that are still in that secrecy mindset. I think it's not always 100%, oh, you have to share absolutely everything. But I think the more you share, especially the more you share that is helpful to other people, the more that they can connect with you and the more you can benefit from that relationship. So the reason I brought up Patrick McKenzie was for one specific reason that he was on me. So he got a call from a startup company, and they were like, yeah, we really want to hire you for this engagement. So they go and they have the talk, and they're like, oh, Patrick, it's so great for you to be here. You know, we've read every blog article you've written. We've read your, what was it, like 1.5 million words on Hacker News. We've taken your paid email course, right? Wow. Like, we love what you've done. We really want you to come in and help us out here. And Patrick looked at him and says, so you've read everything on my blog? They're like, yes. You've taken my paid email course? Yes. And you want me to write an email course for you and to help you improve your site? So yes. You know at this point, you know everything that I know. Every single thing that I know, you now have. Why do you want to hire me? And they're like, we want to hire you because we want you to do that for us.
Do it for us. They did not want to be taught. The teaching was social proof. They wanted him to get those same results
Yep.
for us?
So here's something very interesting. There's an idea that, so Ramit Sethi calls it his special snowflake syndrome. And I don't know if he created that or not, but I really like it. It's a great phrase. It's the idea that everyone thinks that they are special, that their situation is completely unique. And he uses it in kind of a negative term because he's referring to people who put up barriers to success, like, oh, I'm a school teacher in Omaha, I can't improve my life, kind of thing, right?
Or I have such a niche audience that that this kind of thing would never work for them,
right? Or I live in middle of nowhere Japan, where I have not a single startup around me, yet I'm able to build a consultancy, right? Like, but I view it that is very valid, and I also view it as companies, they can read as much information as they want. They can read as many strategies as they want. If you don't have someone incredibly smart and incredibly talented who understands the core of what's going on with this information, then it's very difficult to apply it to your own company, right? So to give an example, so a lot of people take these email courses and stuff, and I admit I'm guilty of this as well with my own company, and they just kind of copy paste the emails. Right? It's like, okay, now I have a 9 email sequence. It goes day 1, day 3, day 5, day 9, etc. And I copied it and I just kind of changed the words around, which is great. You're going to get great results from that. But imagine if you took the time to really understand the psychology, the strategy of what's happening there, and were able to take it to the next level or do what everyone else is not doing. So with the emails, think about it like this. Everyone now is doing these damn email campaigns, right? My inbox is just flooded with every webinar, with every SaaS product. Everyone has a lifecycle email campaign. I don't read many of them anymore.
Are we getting saturation? Are we getting a little lifecycle email burnout here?
I don't know. I was actually thinking about this before the call, and I was wondering, okay, is this, and I think it really depends on your market. B2C prints money like you wouldn't believe because people don't sign up for this many things. B to, I'd call it small business. B to SB is, I think, still good, but I think it's going to reach a saturation point. Not in a bad way. There are people who still read these religiously, but you really have to stand out among the crowd. Like Lead Pages sends me something every 2 days. And that's a lot of content. It's not great. It's good content, but it's not great content. And you compare that with someone like Brennan Dunn, who emails me once a week, and it's usually amazing content, or someone like Patrick McKenzie, who mails out once a month, and it's #1 on Hacker News for like 2 days, right? With like 7,000 upvotes and
So, okay, if we've got listeners who are thinking, this sounds great, and I really want to get in and try it, how do they know? First of all, should they ask the question, is this for them? What is it for everybody, or is it only for certain kinds of businesses?
I think it is, unless you are doing a very specific kind of e-commerce sells physical goods on the internet, I think that this is a useful strategy. So I have worked with a lot of enterprise clients. I try not to anymore, but one of the things that we did with our educational marketing was webinars, right? Just like this one, training seminars. So when you really think about it, this is an educational marketing tool, right? But it's aimed specifically at enterprise customers, and it works very, very well, right? Now, an enterprise customer, they're not going to make a sale on a webinar like a lot of people do,
right?
But it's educational in a way that, so B2B, especially B to large businesses, they get so many emails, and they're not going to have time to read through all these emails to find the good stuff, right? But if you have a webinar and you're able to promote that well, not only just through email, but maybe through Facebook or through other places, and you're able to get that education chance through another way, then that's going to be highly valuable to you, right? Because a lot of people, it's not that they don't have time to read the email, it's just when you have 300 emails a day, you don't want to read any more emails. If it's not important, you don't want to look at it. But if you have a webinar at maybe right after work or maybe during the lunch hour or something like that, it's like, yeah, I'd love to sit on a webinar and listen to this because it will be interesting. And I know it's not just going to be schlock that was probably written not even by people at the company, right? They maybe hired a content person to do it. But with a webinar, you're talking to and listening to a person who's at least connected with the company, and you're probably going to learn something, right?
So and by the way, and for everybody who's listening to this webinar, we appreciate it. We're glad you're here. And we'd love to see your comments in the chat window, comments or questions for Keith or myself. Keith, so if people are imagining that this is a good strategy, webinar, email life cycle, that teaching is a way that they can begin marketing to people, how do they get started? Like, is there kind of a ground level before they even, like, is there a step one?
So it depends on your industry what your step one is.
Okay.
We work with a lot of product people and a lot of startups. So that by definition means that we are working with or other businesses that are marketing towards consumers or small businesses, right? So a startup is generally, they're marketing at scale, I will say, right? So essentially, if you're not marketing towards enterprise, these strategies will work. The biggest thing that we've seen is what they call a lead magnet, a free piece of content, a free piece of information, something excitable that people can get, and all they have to pay is their email address.
So this might be like a PDF?
It might be a PDF. We put out our authority interviews. So we put out some interviews with really the authoritative product people in the market, Amy Hoy, Brennan Dunn, Nathan Barry.
Right.
And we put that together and targeted it towards people who are also looking to launch the product, to become product people. And we said, hey, these are the tops of the field who are going to tell you how they got started. And it's completely free. Just give us your email address. And I want to mention something. I kind of changed my wording there. So I said, it's completely free. Just give us your email address. But originally I had said paid with your email address.
That's what you said.
Right. The marketing of it, how you position it to customers, is free for your email address. How you need to internalize it is paid, because an email address, any piece of personal information, has value to it, especially to the person owning it, right? And this is one of the big mistakes that I see a lot of people, especially companies who aren't used to this, doing, is that they think that an email address is free, right? That once you get that, it's not worth anything, right?
But it's sort of the new currency. Is that right?
Oh, it is. It is. You talk to a lot of these product people, and they're like, which would you rather have happen? Would you rather lose your list, or would you rather lose every single dollar you own?
I can't go to Dairy Queen with my list, but what do they say?
Every single one of them will say, I don't want to lose my list. Like, I would not give up my list for anything else. And there's a very good reason for that, because if you have a good list and you email them and say, hey, I got this new thing on sale, or hey, I just lost all my money, they're going to find a way to get you that money back, right? And this has actually happened to a friend of mine. He had a list, and he had huge monetary issues. And he called me up. He said, Keith, I gotta get some money. I really need some money. What can we do? We put together a plan, and a week later he had, I think, $350K in the bank.
Get out. 350. You hear that, people? Keith Perhac is promising you.
I'm not promising
that if you do this, you too can have 300. No, I mean, that's an amazing story.
He had a list. He had a powerful list. And this wasn't a giant list. It wasn't like 1 million people. It wasn't like even 500,000 people. He had a list of people that was dedicated to him, that believed in him, believed in what he could do. Some of them were customers, some of them weren't customers. And he never told them, oh, hey, I'm shit out of money. He said, hey, we're doing this awesome thing. Come join me.
Wow. Wow. So he had, so let's go back to this idea of the list as currency, where my money sits in the bank and it earns interest. My list sits in drip. And if I ignore it, it actually gets less valuable though, right?
Oh, yeah. An ignored list is horrible. That ignored list. So you need to think of, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. If it's cheese or if it's wine, what goes stale? What goes stale? I had a lot of cheese and wine last night. I was very,
both of those can go bad with time and exposure. So
right. So,
sure.
So yes, a list, you have to keep it warm. You can't keep a list alive just by having it sit there.
So a list is like a baby chicken.
Okay, yeah, because you need the heating lamp, you need
the incubator, right? The little
incubator,
chicken
you need to
area,
keep
right?
It.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you want to have Christmas dinner, then
or you need 250K.
Execute everyone. It's like, hi everyone, come into the chicken feed machine, and then we're gonna. Kai says bread. Bread is a good one. So yeah, bread. So okay. Bread goes stale. Bread, if you don't take care of it, because it's going to lose its texture. You need to. Oh, even better than bread. Okay, so let's do, because it's related to bread, the starter for bread, for like a sourdough bread. Okay. Because it's a living thing, you have to keep it alive. I don't know why we're spending so much time on this damn analogy, but the idea is you have to keep emailing them. You have to keep them interested, and you have to do it with education. You can't do it with sales. So this is one thing that a lot of people make a mistake on, is that you have to get this balance of sales versus education. Because if you're selling constantly and you're constantly trying to pull things out of your list, eventually they're going to say, I'm not getting as much as I was. I'm not getting any information. It's all just sales pitches, right?
Is there is there kind of a golden ratio of like education to the ask to selling? I mean, is it 10-1 or 20-1, or do you just play it by ear? Or what have you found?
It's a difficult balance, and it depends on your market. You need to see what your market holds. I will say that a lot of people who have not done this before don't sell enough.
Don't sell enough. So
they don't sell enough.
For example, I have a list. Me.
Mm-hmm.
I've never offered them anything. I've never sold them anything. Sorry, I've never made them an offer like, you pay me $1 and I'll give you this, right? And people actually keep unsubscribing from my list the more webinars I do, which frankly seems like a bad sign. But not everyone tells me it is. So it feels really scary to me to ask for something back.
Right, exactly. And that's where a lot of people have that problem, is because it is scary. Kai in the chat room is asking what a good ratio is. I like to send out, I guess, 4-1. It depends what you mean by a sales email. So let's say you have a sales funnel that's about 10 days long.
Okay.
I think maybe 3 of those emails should be sales emails.
3 out of 10. So
yeah,
interspersed, probably the last one is definitely a sales email.
I would say the last 3 are sales emails, depending on how you do it. But I'd say, maybe a third. A third of your emails should be sales emails, unless it's part of a general list, right? And then I would say maybe you do a sales reminder or just something monetized maybe once every 2 weeks.
Okay. Philip is asking us the question. I want to make sure we get to this. He says, what kind of lead magnet performs best? And is there any one kind that you'd recommend across the board?
That's a great question.
I know, and it's hard too.
It is because it really depends on your market. I went to InfusionCon last month, and it was, well, that's going to date the podcast, I'm sure.
we don't have to say which InfusionCon.
Yes, because there are so many. But they were. I went to a seminar about creating a lead magnet, and it's tough because no one. It's the same kind of problem like create a lifecycle email funnel for me, right? Because it's hard to create a lead magnet because there's so many things you can do, and it is so specific to your industry. What I like to do for any lead magnet is something that is simple and that gets immediate results and is in your industry, right?
Do you have an example of one that you've seen that really nailed it?
So we actually put out one I'm always nervous about like using other people's stuff. There is a lot, but one thing that we put out was this blueprint for Infusionsoft, and we put out specifically how to structure your tags for Infusionsoft. So if you've ever used Infusionsoft or not, it's a CRM. It's used for monitoring your users, how people are performing, etc. And they have this thing called tagging, where you can tag your users based on actions that they take. And it's really freaking complicated.
It is complicated. Yeah,
it's complicated. And especially since there's no information on the internet about how to best structure it. They have a lot of technical articles about how to set up the tags, but no one ever says, you should probably set up your tags like this: prospects, customers, blank, lead sources, et cetera, et cetera. And so we built it's just a like 4 or 5 page PDF that just talks about how to set up tags. And people love it. Like, people are sharing it. People are giving us their email addresses for it. People are signing up. It's great. So a lead magnet, and Aaron actually brings in a great item here. Yes, a lead magnet can be a chapter out of an ebook. I actually like them to be smaller than bigger.
Really?
Because I do. Now, small does not mean bad, right?
So small does not mean unvaluable or less valuable.
Right. Small just means easily digestible, because especially with this amount of information, everyone's doing lead magnets now. Everyone's doing educational emails right now. You need to have something that is digestible, that people can instantly go in, enjoy, get value out of, and improve themselves out of. Now, that improving themselves is really important, because when someone improves themselves from a free product, you've just convinced them of the value of what you're teaching, right? And people start thinking, well, if I got this much value for free, what could I get from the $50 value or the $100 value or something similar, right?
Yeah. A friend of mine does video trainings for programming languages, and he puts out these one-page, he calls them hang them on the wall cheat sheets. They're just one-page PDFs with like, these are the common things you need to remember when doing this task. Mm-hmm. He said he gets a mountain of downloads and shares, and he looked at. I remember when he told me, he says, and it was so easy, it felt like I was cheating. And I said, no. I mean, I think that you're boiling down the important things, and people are putting your logo on their wall, next to some information. It's a constant reminder.
Exactly. And it has your logo on there. Exactly. And it's a reminder of who you are, and also the value that you're giving out. I have a client who has a best-selling book, and he loves lead magnets, loves these opt-ins. And if you are very, very diligent, you could find every single chapter of his book for free on the internet.
Wow. Because if you pieced them together?
If you piece them together, because he has put them out there as lead magnets. Now, it's very difficult to do, but you could find it, right?
Absolutely.
Because each chapter targets a different problem of his book. And the chapter on itself is very valuable, but it also hints to the larger whole, right?
Yeah.
So most people are not going to go out and scour the internet for 16 chapters of this book when you could buy the whole book for $4 or $5 or however much it is right now, right?
Right.
And that's not the point. And that's also not the point of the book. The book itself is social proof. The book itself is almost like a lead magnet.
The book itself, like it's an Amazon. I could go and it's a physical, like they would ship me.
It's a physical book. They'd ship you a book. You could go to Barnes and Noble. Do they still exist? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Okay, generic bookstore. You could go to the bookstore and get the book. You could get it on your Kindle, but instead of the email address for a chapter is then $5 for the book, right?
Right.
So it's still a low priced, but the book for his business, I mean, he's not making $1 million off the book, right? He's using it as a promotional tool to get people into that educational funnel. And that's what a lot of people are doing now with their books. Like I look at Ryan Holiday's, I first read his book, Growth Hacking, and then I bought his Trust Me, I'm Lying. And Growth Hacking was $2.90, I think. And Trust Me, I'm Lying was like $8. And I got a lot of value out of it, but I don't think he's making $2 million, $3 million a year off of those book sales, especially not the $2 one, right?
Right.
But now I know who Ryan Holiday is. Oh man, do I know who Ryan Holiday is.
Would you hire him?
I would definitely hire Ryan Holiday. I have no idea of his track record other than what he has put in those books. I'm just going to be 100% honest here. I know nothing about Ryan Holiday other than I've read 2 of his books and I hear him mentioned all over the internet.
That's enough. That's probably 90% of the decision-making process these days. Exactly. Does he have a book, and does a buddy on the internet talk about him, or have I been in a room where people are talking about him? Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So if educational marketing is very 2015, and we might be reaching a saturation period, especially among certain groups, right? Do you have a crystal ball that sort of forecasts what's next? Is there a next evolution of educational marketing, or is there something that's you see coming up that you're just really excited about?
I don't know. That's the thing.
Okay.
No, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this before the call because, I've been talking about educational marketing for 3 years now, and it's really near and dear to my heart. I believe it is the way to do real marketing, but because, like we were talking about, everyone and their mother has a copy-pasted lifecycle email course. Everyone and their mother has a content course. Now, this is not to say if you don't have one that you shouldn't start one. You should definitely start one, because any list is better than no list, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think that there is going to be a next step. I think right now what you can do to kind of differentiate yourself. So we were talking about list size, right? So I have clients with 1 million people on their list. I have clients with 500,000. I have clients with 10,000. I have clients with 5,000 people on their list, right? And you cut out there, I can hear.
I said 1 million people. Like I was just, that's huge. That's an enormous list.
Yeah, for especially for a small product person marketing team, yeah, that's a huge list. But does it perform better than a small list? Not really.
Really?
Right? You have the benefits of scale, right? With 1 million people list, even if you have a 0.5% purchase rate or engagement rate, you're still doing really well. But you can get very similar results from a 5,000 person list if you have a 20 or 30% engagement rate.
Oh, and sure. The math makes sense.
Yeah. And it's much easier for you to be able to connect with a 5,000 person list than it is a 1 million person list, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
Also, just handling a 1 million person list is a challenge in itself, right?
I'm sure that's true. So now I want to ask you something. Earlier, you made the statement. So I was whining, and you can call it that. I was whining that every time I do a webinar, people unsubscribe. And just like, let's be honest, it never feels good to have people give you the equivalent of what feels like the finger, I'm leaving you, right? And it's not really the finger, they're just leaving you. But you made the comment that it's not necessarily bad. It's not bad when people look at what I've sent them and they choose that they don't want to be on the list anymore. But how can it be construed as anything except really bad?
Well, it's good for 2 reasons. First of all, let's imagine that you're a brick and mortar store.
Okay.
And you're trying to sell things, and you have a bunch of guys come in who never buy anything and just kind of jump around the place, maybe crash into some stuff and then leave.
Looky-loos.
Looky-loos in bowls and china shops. But
that's right.
It's the digital version of that. And while they're not necessarily like breaking your store or taking up space, they are taking up some cognitive space, because if they send you an email saying, hey, what about this? Like, you think that they're a real customer, right? Or they're going to someday be a customer. You think they're valuable, but they're not at that point. So if they email you, you're going to respond back, you're going to spend time, but they have no desire to purchase. And I think I'm kind of stretching that a bit thin, but
well, for example, I like to sit around in the evenings and just look at the size of my list. And I like to just pat myself on the back that, like, look at all the hundreds of people or whatever, thousands of people that are on my list, right? But what I'm starting to get the sense of is it's sort of not true, because some of those people, every time I send out one of these webinars, they leave. So maybe that means that I'm deluding myself a little bit.
It's part delusion. You're a deluded person. No,
I mixed with another substance, so that's diluted.
It is that's diluted. I'm a diluted person as well. No, it's nice to delude yourself like that, and I do that as well. But at the end of the day, if they're not a good fit for you right now, then it doesn't matter if they're on your list or not,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And if
so I can't say, look, I have 1,500 prospective clients. If I never email them and I just sit back and think, well, if I email them, they might unsubscribe. What I should do is interact with them often and prune the list, I guess, right? Like a tree is healthier that has only the parts that really need it to grow versus all the extra stuff on it that just weighs it down.
Right. So this will be interesting. Look at the lead pages. I was complaining that I get 2 to 3 emails, or I get an email every 2 to 3 days from lead pages. I now have a negative relationship with lead pages because I just see them as crap in my box, right?
Right. How can that be good?
You don't want that. So if they unsubscribe, that's actually a good thing, because if they're not ready for it, if they're not, they're gonna. If at some point in the future they are, and if you continue growing, if you continue growing your list with people who are excited about what you do, then they will come back, right? Because eventually they are gonna, if they're in the point in their life where you are able to provide value to them, they will come back, right? Now you don't want them to go stale. But you don't need people who aren't ready to be part of your community. Right?
Okay. So this idea of community, now you've hit on this topic, and I just have to ask. Okay, so I started my list by adding all my friends to it and all my relatives, right? And then I had a company called Creo, and I added all my clients, right? And then I added everybody on every business card that I'd ever gotten. And blah, 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 blah. I got like 280 names on my list, and I felt pretty good about that. And then my company shut down, and then I started writing for people who were software managers in enterprises, and I got more people on my list, and now I've pivoted, and now I'm talking to people who own agencies. So I don't have, like, if you got all these people in a room and you said, what's the common thread? They would be like, oh, I guess it's that we are on your list because there's no other common thread between us, right?
Right.
So, I mean, this idea of community, for me at least, it feels like I'm not doing it right. Do I actually have a community here, or is pruning the list the act of choosing a focus?
Yeah.
And maybe do I even need to do some sort of survey or something? I don't know. Do you like those kinds of things?
I'm not a big survey fan. Now, there's a way to do surveys and prune your list without doing an actual survey. The easiest way is to just pivot, like you said. Choose a direction and go that direction. Everyone who isn't part of that new direction will drop off because they're not getting value.
Don't they hate me though?
Why would they hate you?
I don't know, because in my heart I'm 11 and I fear that no girl will ever like me, and the cool kids hate me. So
it's so true. It's so true. I feel the same way every time sending out that email, that weekly email or whatever. Is just it's like the bane of my existence. It's like, what if no one likes me and everyone spits on me? But
it is a good thing. It is a good thing. So people who aren't interested, they'll drop off.
Right. So you were asking, do you have a community at this point? I would say no, but you have the seeds of a community, right? Ooh. And this is exactly what Brennan did when he started. So it's been 3 years now, 4 years?
It's been a while, for sure.
It's been a while. So he started Double Your Freelancing Rate, I think 3 or 4 years ago. I think we were actually part of his launch promotions. So he I think one of his first interviews about Double Your Freelancing Rate was on our podcast. But he was talking about his list as well, and he said, "Yeah, when I started this, my list consisted of all my PlanScope customers." So he had a SaaS targeted towards business owners that helps them manage products. And now he's creating a product for even people who are kind of lower on the totem pole than that. He's targeting people with freelancers, right?
Right.
And that's it's a semi-market fit, but it's not a great product market fit. But that's the only list he has. So he emailed out to that list, and that was the start. And he said it did not go well at all. But there were people on there who were like, "Oh yes, I'm interested in this," right? And that was the seeds of his new list. And then he started doing lead magnets and opt-in lead carrots. There's so many words for it, but lead magnets, and promotions and started building up that list with that targeted focus. And this was something that I went to a convention last year that they talked a lot about, which I loved, was being dogmatic. And so you were saying that you have a lot of people. Okay, so you have some people from Creo, you have some people from anyone who gave you your business cards. People have signed up for the list specifically. So you have this mishmash of people because you had no single focus, no single path that you were going down, right?
That's
and so the problem there is that you can't focus them, you can't talk to them, right? Because what are you going to talk about? There's no single thing that you can talk to these people about because they come from such disparate areas. So you need to be dogmatic. You need to find your focus and stick on that. Now, you can always pivot away. You can always pivot away later, or you can sub-segment into different groups later. But especially at the beginning, you have to say, this is the road we're going down. If you don't like it, that's fine. No hard feelings, but you're probably not going to get any value. But people who go down that road with you and who find value from it are going to be your best customers. And this, it feels like I'm kind of talking about this from a product person standpoint, but this also deals with business as well. I mean, you look at Patrick McKinsey, very dogmatic, his rallying call was charge more, test everything. And everyone glommed onto that idea. Everyone who had something to learn from that went in, part of his funnel, and that's how he built his consultancy. He could have pivoted to a technical agency. He could have pivoted it to anything he needed because that is such a good vertical. So this isn't just for product people. This isn't just for selling things on the internet. This can be used for any business that you really do. And think about the businesses around you that you know and you like. Stay away from like Sharp and Sony and stuff like that. But think, why do you know them? Why do you know they're good? And that's an interesting question to ask yourself when you think about a company or a movie or really anything. So one of the kind of defining moments in my life was back in high school, as far as marketing goes, where all my friends were talking about this movie Shrek, right? And all the commercials were so good and everything. And so one of my friends said, "Hey Keith, how was Shrek?" I was like, "Oh, it's great." Well, I hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen Shrek. Yeah.
Wow.
But in my mind, I knew it was good. I watched it. I didn't really like it. It was overhyped, but
I feel like that's how I would feel about a Tesla. If someone was like, I've never sat in a Tesla.
I want a Tesla so bad.
I know I've never driven a Tesla, but if someone came to me and they said, "Hey, I have enough money and I need a new car, and what do you recommend?" I would be like, "Oh, the Teslas are awesome. Like they are flat awesome." And that's my object of desire. I want to be.
I'm planning on moving to the United States just to buy a Tesla.
There you go. There you go.
It is actually a weighing factor is that I could own a Tesla. Like,
wow.
But it's true. It's true. And so you look at
this episode brought to you by Tesla. Tesla, the electric car of the future. That's right.
But it's so true. It's so true. You have just this huge amount of social proof. And now we're going into kind of social proof, but it's also social proof is also a type of education, right? Mm-hmm. And it's this idea. And when you start looking at companies and you start thinking about, why do I like this company, or why would I recommend this company? It gives you a lot more ideas as to how you can pivot and how you can position your own company, right? We were talking earlier about, okay, has the market reached saturation on email marketing? Have we gotten to the point where like it's just overwhelmed? And I don't think so, but I think it's slowly getting there. So there needs to be a way that you differentiate yourself from the crowd. You always need to differentiate yourself from the crowd, but
Hold it.
Okay.
Keith,
okay. Yeah.
You've got to look into the camera, and I need you to tell all of the young, green DYFC class people who are resisting specialization that they should do this. You have just given a great pitch on picking a niche and specializing. Would you please just tell us one more time the benefits of specializing?
So the benefits of specializing is, A, you're going to find people who are just rabid about what it is you're teaching, right? And this goes back to the being dogmatic. So you want people who specifically are looking for your expertise. Two, it's easy to set yourself out from the crowd, right? So there are tons of marketing agencies. There are tons of technical agencies. There are very few technical marketing agencies that do exactly what we do. That's one way I've set myself apart. Another thing that you get from it is it's easier to talk to these people. It's easier to talk to people when you have a set conversation framework, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So Nathan Barry had said before he started launching products, his blog was about everything. It was about, he had product hacks, he had like life hacks, he had like design stuff he was working on, he had just random crap like what I had for dinner last night. As soon as he launched his first product, I don't know if he actually talked about that in his blog.
I'm going to go look later. But
yeah, let's go delve the archives of Nathan Barry's soul.
That's right.
But once he launched his first product, which was designing applications, he then had a focus. And everything he's kind of launched since then has been very focused on that designing applications. And then he went to designing, I'm trying to remember the second one, and then he went to Authority, which was how he had literally taken this mishmash of stuff, focused it down, and targeted a very specific group, right? And you can always pivot away later, but having a specific target cuts out the chafe and also makes you stand out among everyone else. So here's an interesting marketing strategy and stuff that we've done a lot with. So we were working with he was a lawyer who was doing like the standard, I'm trying to think of the words, the standard contracts for when you start a business or like what you need to run a business, right?
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Just standard. This is standard across the board. It doesn't apply to software companies. It doesn't apply to dentistries. It doesn't apply to any single industry. But it was there's like a $200 pack of documents that you fill out your own name and then you can use them for whatever you want, right?
Okay.
So if he had said, "I'm a lawyer who sells contracts on the internet. Get your contracts here." Like,
I don't think I'd buy that. I don't think I would.
Either. First of all, no one's searching for that, right?
Okay, yeah.
Second of all, if I get that, it's like, well, is this really going to apply to my use cases? That special snowflake syndrome, right? And so what he did is he created a number of landing pages and home pages. They were like mini sites, right? And it was legal contracts for dentists, legal contracts for startups, legal contracts for contractors, legal contracts for CPAs, etc. They were all the same product, exactly the same product. All that was different was the title and maybe some body copy.
Wow. And he sold the same thing. Perfectly legitimate. They were effective for everybody, but he probably sold the heck out of those things.
Oh, yeah.
From his island in Bahamas.
Exactly. Because not only are people searching for those specific keywords, but as soon as I see contracts for startup businesses in Japan doing business abroad, I'm like, okay, this guy gets me.
That's me.
That's me. This guy knows exactly what I am. I know that he's going to help me. Right.
Now you described your company as a marketing engineering company, right?
Yep.
But my guess is that you do things like software development and testing and server maintenance and requirements gathering and visual design and user experience design and copywriting and blah, blah. And so many of the people I talk to just say like, I'm a Rails shop or I'm a WordPress shop. And yet you've gone this complete other direction to specialize in this marketing technology thing. Was that hard for you to do? I mean, you had to choose that specialty versus 100 other specialties.
It was very difficult. It was very difficult. It took a lot of time to do as well and to figure out. And we're still kind of figuring it out. We're kind of figuring out exactly what niche we want to target to. But I mean, so it's interesting because a lot of places do say, "Oh, I'm a Rails shop,"
right?
And that is a form of segmentation because a lot of business owners will come and they'll say, "Oh, my software is on Rails. I need to find a Rails shop." But a lot of those people come to me as well. And it's interesting because I say, okay, so why are we on Rails? And they're like, well, the old version was on Rails. It's like, are you going to keep using the old version? I'm like, no, it's horrible. It's like, do you want to stay on Rails? And they're like, not really.
We don't care. Whatever you think.
Right, exactly. And so we do Rails. We also do PHP. We do a lot of stuff. But what I realized talking to these people is they don't care as much about the technology stack unless they already have a vested technology stack, right?
Yeah.
If you're looking for a Rails shop, you're probably looking for either someone to support an existing application, or you're looking for someone to develop a system that you can then support in-house, right? The reason you would look for a specific technology stack is because you want to support that long-term for in-house, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And for us, I mean, now we focus more on the marketing side of things. So the development we do, we wouldn't build we do build a lot of stuff, but we wouldn't build a transportation management system that helps trucks like ferry things across the US, right? That's not the type of development we do.
That's perfect. So when you specialize, it's really important I think the way you know you're specializing is when you know what you won't do, when you realize what you're going to say no to. I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road. I don't want to take this guy's money because he needs a transportation management system. I do want to take this guy's money who needs Infusionsoft integration with Stripe and blah, 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 right?
Exactly.
And your willingness to say no feels like we're the dogmatic perspective of we do this. This is what we are, really comes into play.
Exactly. And we do a lot of software development, but we make sure that it's within the specific, because people, in my experience, people don't want to hire us to just build the app that they have in mind. They want to hire us because they have an idea in mind, but they want to make sure it's, first of all, going to launch, which is a conversation that we could spend hours on. And the other one is that we're able to leverage our expertise in giving them advice on how to better build it and the strategies that we need. So we do a lot of dashboards, right? So we build internal dashboards for people who want big old television in their office with their main KPIs, and they want them always refreshing and everything. So we do a lot of internal stuff like that, and very custom data. But that's because that's our wheelhouse. We understand how data works. And more than that, we understand what data, we can help the company understand what data is important for them, right? So, for example, we have a client who's obsessed with his bounce rate. Absolutely, he's just like, my bounce rate went up like 4%. We're screwed.
And he somehow can tie that to dollars. I am guessing that's why he's obsessed.
No, he can't.
Oh,
he can't. No, he has in his mind that that's the big KPI, right, for him. But the reason his bounce rate went up is because he was submitting a form. He was getting more opt-ins. So, when you opt in, you go off-site.
Right.
And that counts, and you come back, and that counts as a bounce.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So every bounce, when his bounce rate was increasing, his leads were also increasing.
Right.
So he was making more money with more leads, but he thought that he was going down because of the bounce rate. So, and I pick on that because bounce rate is such a horrible stat for 90% of businesses out there. But that's what people come to us for, is like, yeah, we have this idea, we want these KPIs, and they're like, oh, but we need to focus on bounce rate. And we're like, okay, let's go back one. Let's look at exactly what you want to focus on. Let's look at the business needs.
So your solution is
mentions they want a solution, not a skill set. And that's exactly right. They don't want someone who can build an app. They don't want someone, I mean, they do want the app, but they want a solution to their problem. They're not excited about, is it Excel? Is it a CSV? Is it like MySQL or Postgres? They don't give a crap. They just want to solve their problem.
Right. And you make them smarter about it. They know they need to measure. They just might be measuring the wrong thing. And so that's where you can come alongside and bring a lot of value there.
Exactly.
Keith, what a pleasure. We need to wrap up.
I was going to say, we need to wrap up.
I know. If there's no other questions, which I don't see any.
We haven't opened up why don't we do 5-10 minutes on questions?
We'll do 10 minutes on questions. If you've got them, throw them in. While we're talking, though, where can people find you? I know that it's below your name there.
So, yeah, we can get it right there. There we go. I'm watching my own video as I do this. So I realized something a couple weeks ago, is that I'm the only Keith Perhac on the internet. There's apparently a guy in Oregon named Keith Perhac.
But no, I bought that. That's me.
That's you? Okay.
No, I'm joking.
But there's really just no one on the internet named Keith Perhac. So I used to tell people, oh, you go to DelphiNet, which is my company, or you go to Summit Evergreen, which is one of my SaaSes, or Segmetrics. And I do so freaking much that it's so hard for me to say, oh, you need to go to this one place. So I finally got my own domain name, keithperhac.com. And I just tell people, search for Keith Perhac. There's only one of me. You're going to find all the stuff I do. And yeah, that's about it.
That's awesome. And so if somebody wanted to get a hold of you and they were interested in improving their marketing, they wanted to hire you, how would they do that? Is there an email address or is there a contact form on the site?
There should be an email address in the contact form. You can also email me at keith@perhac.jp. So it's keith@perhac.jp. And I'm sure there's a contact form on the site. If not, sign up for my list and send me an email. So.
And what kind of things do you write about on your list? What is the, who are you focusing on?
It's interesting because it's just starting. So I had a list for DelphiNet for about a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. And it never really went anywhere because I wasn't really invested in the whole content marketing for a company. And so I kind of let that fizzle out, and I've started building a new one for myself. And kind of what I'm going to be talking about is conversion rate optimization, is marketing, and really human psychology, and not in the boring way, but I consider marketing to be applied psychology, right? Yeah. It's understanding how people work and then twisting and pulling those little levers and just improving your business through understanding people. So that's a lot of what we're going to talk about.
Using it for good, not for evil, obviously.
Definitely. You should read the book Hooked, because they talk about that a lot, where they break it up, and I'm not going to take too much time. They break it up into 4 quadrants. It's and it goes from altruistic good to monetized good to monetized evil to pure evil.
Pure evil.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you can use it for anything. The tactics are exactly the same. It's your own moral compass that decides where things are going. So
okay. So the book Hooked. Now, this is something I'd like to ask. Are there any other people who are interested in this? They've sat and they've watched this. What other resources or little bits, books, websites, what else should they be reading to learn more about this topic we've talked about today?
So I would definitely recommend Patrick McKenzie's Lifecycle Emails course. It's lifecycleemail.com, where you can just look up Lifecycle Email Patrick McKenzie, and it'll be up there. It's a little bit expensive, but it's completely worth it. I think I can't remember how much it is. It's either $250 or $500.
Totally worth it, probably.
No, it is completely worth it. They have some of the emails that he had consulted with WP Engine. And they have I think he had consulted with WP Engine. The email cycle that they had used is in there, and that's just grown their business hugely, right? The examples he gives and the strategies he gives, just very, very smart. It's about 9 hours of video content plus tons of reading material.
Wow. It's not just an email series. It's a video series on an email series.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's good. It's good. And then I'd recommend Hooked, which I really liked. I've read so many books recently. I can't remember one that really sticks out, but those are my big ones.
All right. Well, Keith, thank you so much for your time today. Really enjoyed it. Yeah. Thanks to our audience. And we've been talking with Keith Perhac today about education marketing and Patrick McKenzie and the future of all the fun stuff in the world. Thank you for joining us today.
All right. Thanks very much for having me.
Okay,
cheers.
Bye.